Greetings, welcome to another video. Today we're at the final episode in this series. We're talking about Pisces Svamsa. So Gemini gives us the results elevation, perpetual Dharma, and Kaivalyam. So if you're not sure about how to find the Svamsa sign, it's very simple. You first locate the Atmakaraka planet in your natal chart. And this is the key planet to understand which planetary energy has the most direct influence on you as a person. The Atmakaraka is the key and most critical factor in all of Gemini astrology. And then we find out where that Atmakaraka is falling in the 9th divisional chart, the Navamsa. So let's take a quick, easy example. This is Elon Musk's chart. We see that he has Jupiter at 27 degrees 38 minutes in Scorpio. It's at a higher degree than any other planet. And of course, we're excluding Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto and the two nodes when we're using this technique. And then open up the graph in the description of this video and you'll see where all the Navamsa divisions are. So let's go into Scorpio on the left-hand side, follow it to where 27 degrees 38 minutes would fall, and you see it would be in that final division. We see Pisces there. So another way to say it is that Jupiter is in Pisces in the Navamsa. And since Jupiter is the Atmakaraka planet, that makes Pisces our Svamsa sign. So Elon Musk, he has a Pisces Svamsa. And that means that the challenges and obstacles in him following his inspired purpose in life are going to be, according to Gemini, elevation, perpetual Dharma, and Kaivalyam. So now we're going to discuss what Gemini means by these things. And as you can see, they're very positive results. He is very supportive of a person having a Pisces Svamsa. He gives these are all very elevated results, because in ancient India, spiritual pursuits were placed much more importance in society than today, living a spiritual life. And with these words, he's really telling us right off the bat that this is an excellent position to have for spiritual elevation. And he uses that word, elevation. So what does that mean more symbolically? Let's dive into it. The challenge for these people, because not every person with the Pisces Svamsa is going to be some kind of spiritual guru. The challenge is taking one's thoughts, words, and actions and leveling them up. Taking the high road in life, and the challenge and the obstacle being, am I living up to my fullest potential, or am I kind of just flowing along in life and allowing things to happen? Am I just kind of living on the lazy river of life? Elevation means taking the next step in whatever your evolution and learning is in this life. So a Pisces Svamsa can really help a person level up in whatever they're engaged in whatever activities they're doing. And the reason for this, Pisces being of elevation, is because it's the last sign in the zodiac. And the zodiac signs work as a kind of cycle. And the final sign is the ending of that cycle. And when we start a new cycle, we don't want to keep running the same cycle. We don't want to run in circles in our life and through experiences. And so we want to take the next step so that when we begin another cycle, we're at another stage that's higher in development. That's another level up. Like if you're playing a video game, you don't want to just keep playing the same level. You want to get to the next level. So that final boss stage, that final sign, Pisces, it's about taking what you've done through the previous 11 signs and learning the deeper meaning of everything that you've done up until that point. So Pisces it's the feminine sign of Jupiter. So it's really about internalizing everything you've done up until that point in your life and seeing the deep meaning behind it, so that when you move on to the next stages, you feel like you've advanced. And as I was saying, this is it's a culmination. So people with a Pisces Svamsa, they are culminating in something. They are getting to the final part of an earthly learning experience, and they're internalizing the deep meaning behind what that entire learning experience was. So it's about taking the next step. And we see people who are at these culmination periods in this lifetime, and the whole life could be about the culmination of a single kind of experience. I want to talk a little bit about people who have Pisces Svamshas, and people who we see in the world who are at an elevated status. Because when you think of elevation, you think of a well-known person, someone who does something excellently. And you can think about it in terms of very young souls, people who this is one of their first lifetimes as a human being, or an early stage of a learning experience. And then we have mid-level souls, people who have had many experiences in various lifetimes. Then you have very advanced souls who have had many, many experiences, and they're ready to conclude their earthly experiences. So people who have elevated statuses in life, and people right off the bat, you can say, who have a Pisces Svamsha, Beyonce and Taylor Swift. You look at these are the two of the most successful entertainers in our modern age. These two people have Pisces Svamshas. The question is, are they young souls, are they mid-level, or are they old souls? Well, young souls, and I don't know about Beyonce or Taylor Swift's soul progression, but say, for example, would they be young souls? Well, young souls, they need to experience these extreme kind of conditions in life. And a lot of young souls, they desire the material benefits of wealth, power, realizing their deepest hopes and dreams, and they want to arrive at these elevated levels of being seen and the attention that being a famous person gives you. And the reason a soul would want that is because it's so attractive to a young soul to feel that they're materially successful. They haven't had as many lives, which means they haven't had as many spiritual experiences. So young souls who have a Pisces Svamsha are going to really get to that elevated point and see what that experience in life gives them, that materialized experience. And when a person becomes extremely well-known and wealthy, and they're dealing with other people day in and day out, what happens is that they are experiencing and accumulating many samskaras. Now, the samskaras are the impressions on a soul. And if you can imagine a life of a normal person life who has moderate amounts of interactions with people, and then a person who's wealthy, who's constantly dealing with the desires of other people, the demands, the material demands of being a wealthy person, those impressions of other people onto you, and those desires and experiences of constantly working and doing things on such a fast-paced lifestyle, it's creating these impressions on your soul. So people who get elevated status in life and say they're a young soul, the downside of having so much material success is you accumulate many samskaras. And that means you're accumulating many, the word is impressions, and it means impressions, but many kind of imprints on your astral body, on your energetic system, that have to be worked off in subsequent lives. So that's what a young soul would experience elevation as. A mid-level soul would be experiencing elevation in that a mid-level soul being someone who's had many kinds of lifetimes with variations of experience, but with a Pisces Svamsha, it's showing that they've lived enough of a specific experience or a certain earthly lesson to the point where now they're ready to graduate that experience and move on and level it up. They might not be very famous or well-known individuals. They could just be totally regular people. But what they're learning is that they've come to a final point in certain realizations or certain beliefs. And this is the end point in exploring that kind of educational experience that life is offering them. And it can be any kind of experience. It could be the experiences of married life. It could be experiences of having career success, having many friends. It could be any kind of specific experience, but they're coming to a final point where they don't need that experience anymore. And then they can therefore feel liberated from the need of that experience. And then a very experienced soul, a soul who has had many lifetimes and has gone through all of the varieties of experience that you can have on Earth, well, they are, with a Pisces Svamsa, focusing more of their life on a purely spiritual pursuit. So that separation between the material needs of life and the spiritual needs. And these very experienced souls lose that desire to want to reincarnate back on Earth. They feel inside of them that they have done enough learning in the earthly realm, and their focus becomes extremely internal. They want to graduate from Earth altogether. So people with a Pisces Svamsa that are very experienced souls, they're not going to be well-known people normally. Sometimes gurus can become very well-known, but as I said, becoming a very well-known spiritual person, it's not a very good, it's a very difficult life for a spiritual person because of the samskaric impact. And these people don't want more earthly impressions onto them. So you'll see that very experienced souls with a Pisces Svamsa, they are focused completely on liberation. They want to free themselves from what Earth has to offer. And so it's a very fortunate position, as Jaimini's essentially referencing, the ability to elevate oneself to higher spiritual realization and to surrender oneself to higher powers, and to be to find oneself fluidly moving through life without putting too much force onto the world. Because because Pisces is this feminine sign, this feminine water sign. And that means it's working on our internal life. That's what feminine signs are doing. And water flowing through life, allowing emotional currents to ebb and flow, and not being so forceful with wants and desires in life. And so some other people who we can look at and we can kind of think about, what about Pisces Svamsa can we see into these people's lives that are well known? For example, George Harrison is a good example with a Pisces Svamsa. This is an individual who you could say he really graduated from that experience of being a famous person. He was a Beatle. He lived that fast-paced life, and he was extremely sought after. I mean, talk about being in the middle of the spotlight. And then he became fascinated with Indian spirituality. And as he grew older in his later parts of his life, he was a much more secluded person. He did his music and he lived in his own world, but he became a very spiritual person. And so you could I would assign him to someone who has a mid-level soul with many experiences, to maybe a more advanced soul who really got the full onslaught of that experience of being a famous musician. But he really moved on from that. He reached the culmination point where he didn't need attention from outsiders to feel rejuvenated by life. So he you could say, got to the absolute pinnacle of what it meant to have that earthly experience of being this well-known person. So he's a person that really wanted to have more spirit. He really prioritized his spiritual life. And then also you have someone like Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins, one of the most famous atheists in the world. Richard Dawkins, his culmination in this life is about culminating the experience of material observation, because he's a materialist atheist. So everything to a person like Richard Dawkins is about what you can observe using the scientific method and find the beauty in life in that specific framework of the scientific method. And if you watch his videos that he makes today, I watched a video, it was really interesting, that he was feeling somewhat pessimistic because of how, with the absence of religion, which is one of his big missions in life, to remove religion, not necessarily spirituality, but religion itself, he's seeing that political ideologies are now becoming religions. And he had a very pessimistic outlook, and he even said the words, "I feel like my life was a waste because of human beings need some kind of religion." And that's, not speaking anything about spirituality or spiritual concepts. He's just talking about belief systems. But if I were to say something about Richard Dawkins, he's reaching the liberation point of that worldview of only looking at material existence and trying to find meaning only in what you can observe using our five senses. So his soul has the full culmination of pure scientific inquiry. And that's just one experience that you can have in life, of infinite experiences. So he's a person that's grappling, he's finding the culmination of that belief system of scientific materialism. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we have Elon Musk. And Elon Musk, he's a person who he's a very, very important figure in the way political and economic things work in our world today. He was really catapulted to a very influential position, elevated to a very influential position. And you'll see that if you talk about if you listen to the interviews, what he says is his main pursuits in life, what he does with his time and energy and money, is he's about extending consciousness and bringing and essentially having civilization and the achievements of civilization to extend that into the future. So he's really about life extension. He's a transhumanist. He has his own political ideology, but as you can see, he has a very strong focus on, as I said, the word consciousness, and that's another major theme for Pisces Svamsha. George Harrison and Richard Dawkins both grapple with that too. What is consciousness? How can we learn about consciousness? And of course, Pisces as a sign is the ocean, and the ocean is the symbol for the totality of all consciousness. And the ability, if you look at the waves on top, they can be very rough. But then the deeper and deeper you go into the ocean, it's the depths, it's the deepest points on the surface of the earth. And consciousness has so much life to it. It's the real symbol of where things begin and where things end. This complete, being completely inundated, is not the word, submerged in the totality of existence. So a Pisces Svamsha a healthy Pisces Svamsha will be somebody who has that preoccupation with understanding what it means to be alive, what it means to have that kind of tricky word of consciousness. What does it mean to be aware of oneself? And really grappling with the deep and superficial meanings of what all of that is. It's a very philosophical pursuit. An unhealthy Pisces Svamsha will have a somewhat kind of superficial understanding of what consciousness is, a very materialist understanding, such as Elon Musk. By simply using electronic devices or external technologies to somehow interact with what he calls consciousness is superficial, because it doesn't attune to of spiritual realities, the non-physical reality of life. They're attempting to understand this word consciousness by trying to marry that with material life, and material and spiritual are separate. So you can't understand consciousness and what he's saying, extend consciousness, the whole singularity about downloading yourself into a computer, your consciousness into a computer. It's impossible. It's doomed to fail, because it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the word is. So an unhealthy Pisces Svamsha is going to lose themselves and find material explanations for spiritual phenomenon. So another reason why Gemini gives the very positive results for a Pisces Svamsha is because it's the sign ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is the ultimate benefic planet. It brings good graces into a person's life, and so Jupiter's sign that he owns, Pisces, it's the feminine sign, and he also owns Sagittarius, the masculine sign. Although Jupiter does a bit better in Sagittarius, he's very, very equipped. It's a very strong positioning for Jupiter to be in Pisces, and it's almost, you could argue, a better sign for Jupiter, because Jupiter is a masculine fire planet, so it's got energy, it's got creativity imbued into it. It gives us those attributes in our life. And when it's positioned in its feminine sign, Pisces, it's a nice balance between having a creative force, but being receptive to all of the lessons that life is telling us. This feminine quality of being able to have a depth of contemplation. And so a healthy Pisces Svamsa, these people are going to really feel the sweetness of life. Jupiter rules the taste of sweetness. And that essentially gives a philosophy or an outlook of seeing the glass is half full, being able to receive the good things in life and be grateful for what you do receive. And these people can be very generous people. Jupiter is about expansion, and it's about giving, and it's about being seeing the abundance around you. And these people can have a naturally abundant outlook and philosophy, because Pisces, as I said, it's the ultimate abundance. Look at the ocean. It's the most abundant. It has the most life of any other ecosystem on Earth. It's nothing if not abundant. So these people can have a very outwardly expansive, but more importantly, inwardly expansive kind of mentality. They want to explore the depths of who they are, and this is healthy Pisces Svamsa. And of course, this means also seeking wisdom through this kind of inner exploration. But the unhealthy Jupiter, or the unhealthy Pisces Svamsa, caused by the rulership of Jupiter, can give those negative qualities of Jupiter. And Jupiter isn't all goodness. It can have negative qualities to it. And those negative qualities are overextension. Being abundant to the point of self-scarcity. And it's stretching yourself too thin. And in this sense, it's not as much materially stretching yourself too thin, because when you give materially and you're generous, you're rewarded for that. Not that you should do it for the reward, but that's a very positive and giving way, or it's an excellent way to live your life, to be a generous person. What I mean by overextension, it's that old Southern phrase, being too big for your britches. And that means a person who feels that they are more important than they really are. And that also means believing that you know more than you really do. Because Jupiter is this planet of creative intelligence. It's a planet of wisdom. It's about spiritual knowledge and philosophical knowledge, the higher levels of learning. So the negative quality of that is the expansion of your ego and feeling that you as an individual are better than other people, and it can create this kind of arrogance to oneself. And so that really means keeping an eye out for that overextension of who you are as an individual, and that your impact on the world, what you bring into the world, is more important than it really is. And usually that means a person who's very materially successful, seeing that equals being an exalted or elevated person. People who are at the very first stages of their spiritual journey are more advanced than people who are at the most advanced stages of their material journey. Once you start that spiritual journey, you're already higher, on a higher level than souls who haven't even begun their spiritual journey. But those people could be the billionaires of the world who have power. But if they're not on a spiritual path, the person just starting off is more elevated, because they're on the real path towards graduating Earth and liberating themselves from all the life lesson, all of the lessons that the earthly experience gives us. So the next attribute that Gemini gives is perpetual Dharma, another very positive attribute. So this shows that the Svamsa of Pisces experience is going to be about Dharma, meaning the duty that you have in life, and perpetually doing it means that the consistency in living one's inspired path. So it's a very positive sign for a person to be able to understand their meaning in life, the meaning of their life, and also doing it perpetually. And Jupiter is the planet that instills in us some sense of morality. So a Pisces Svamsa person, they're going to be exploring in this life what morality is and how that morality plays into one's Dharma, how one lives their duty in life and instills a proper belief system that does the right thing and brings goodness into the world. So it's really a big challenge in this life for us, Pisces Svamsa, is creating that internal belief system. Jupiter's male sign Sagittarius was about exporting and preaching a belief system. But the Pisces feminine impulse is to give this sense of deep exploration and self-exploration about what you really believe. And this process can become a very abstract process. And it can become it's about exploring the abstract layers and the infinite experiences and how morality plays into that. And morality is really what you should or shouldn't do, or what is the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do. And that varies by culture, it varies by personal experience. So a very positive Pisces Svamsa expression, very healthy one, is being able to weave oneself within these abstractions and stay true to your own beliefs, but also see that morality is very gray and that it's not as simple as it's much more complex than it is black and white. So human experiences, there's infinite variation to it. And so seeing the grayness of morality is the sign of a person who has a healthy Pisces Svamsa, because they're not trying to fit everyone into a clean category. Think of the ocean. It's all one ocean. And there are so many different fish and creatures that flow within it. And in the same way, morality, it's extremely epoch relative, it's culturally relative. And some people will say relative morality is what leads to evil in the world. Now that is a huge debate, and there are so many abstractions to it. And there comes a point when you have to make a certain claim on morality. This is what's right or this is not right, and then explain why. So a healthy Pisces Svamsa is someone that can take that abstract exploration, see the variations, but then still be able to be firm about what one believes is right or wrong. Now, an unhealthy Pisces Svamsa is a person that is getting lost in that and ends with the statement that all morality is relative. With that statement, that gives a sure justification for bad things happening in the world that people are hurt by, excusing negative behavior. And Jupiter is the fifth planet in the sequence of planets. And the number 5 is in numerology represents the point of understanding good and evil, and that choice point of understanding what is evil and what is good, and what is right and what is wrong, and the ability to differentiate and to understand that there are differences, choosing the path of love, choosing the path of fear, and so forth. So the negative Pisces Svamsa expression, the person will end up living in kind of a fantastical world where ideals become paramount, or they become misplaced, or wanting to make even black and white statements about things. All morality is relative is a black and white statement because it doesn't take into context certain cultural situations. It doesn't take into context so many things. So it's kind of a paradox in that sense. And as I was saying, the negative qualities of Jupiter, having this kind of self-obsession and the arrogance and pride and a sense of and being having an unhealthy sense of excess. These are all also negative qualities of Pisces Svamsha that inhibits a person to be able to live their duty, their Dharma, perpetually. So getting lost in abstractions, getting lost in the world of fantasy, escaping into one's internal world where you can lose oneself and have that Jupiterian quality of arrogance and pride. And that is kind of escaping from the practical world. You can't just fall into this ocean of consciousness and swim there all day and all night. Life needs to have a balance to it. And we're going to talk about balance in a little bit when we talk about Venus. And so Pisces, as I was saying, once you're diving deep and having these deep introspective experience, Pisces, and specifically because it's the 12th natural house, is the sign of dreams and the dream world, the abstract world that we all experience as we sleep. So a person, Sigmund Freud, he has a Pisces Svamsha. He spent his life exploring the dream world of his patients. He invented psychoanalysis. And his theories have been largely kind of thrown to the wayside in the decades since his major influence back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. And even up until the 70s and 80s, Freud had a very strong influence on psychoanalysis, but also understanding what people, the deeper urges within people. But this is another important Pisces Svamsha attribute. What is the deeper meaning behind within my imaginative world, in my dream life? What can I derive about myself? What can I learn about myself from from these abstractions? And so it's really that challenge of what am I gaining from this super malleable world, this Piscean environment of, it's very nebulous and ethereal, and it's very unconcrete in that sense. The opposite sign of Pisces is Virgo, the most concrete of all the signs. Pisces is a very much more it's a world of great mystery. And so this theme will be in a Pisces Svamsha sign of exploring what your dream life really means to you and being able to come to more concrete meanings and what you can learn about yourself from these extremely abstract experiences. So the last description that Jaimini gives is Kaivalyam. And what that word means is essentially the pure state of a soul. And everything that surrounds that pure state is essentially a samskaric impression. It's an impression that is inhibiting a person or a soul from expressing itself purely. So the less kind of, you can think about it as a window pane with impurities on it, or glass with smudges. The more smudges around encasing that soul or around that soul, the more a soul sees outside of it with the distortions of that window. So it causes impure perception, not just of who you are as a pure soul, but of impure perception of the world around you. So Kaivalya is essentially saying that the challenge in a person's life with Pisces Svamsha is being able to seek purity, and to seek to remove the samskaras, to remove the impressions that prevent us from perceiving ourselves from a standpoint of seeing the divinity within us. So it's going to be a challenge of accumulation of material impurities onto our divine spiritual self. So the more impurities we have, the more lifetimes we have to live. So a Pisces Svamsha person is going to be having this challenge of wanting to purify themselves and wanting to see the world more clearly. And many systems of yoga and of Raja Yoga specifically with Patanjali, is that the ultimate goal of life is to experience Kaivalya, or the experience, the earthly experience of pure recognition and understanding of your divinity, and to not have any influences from the material world affecting that self-perception, and that perception, that pure state when consciousness has reached a level of feeling of pure oneness with all that surrounds you, but an internal purity. So that leads to wisdom. It leads to having a very happy life that is not affected by what is happening to you externally. So the positive effects of a Pisces Svamsa person is they're going to be prioritizing spiritual practices for that, achieving that sensation of purity. And then, of course, the negative experience is the accumulation of more and more material impressions. And that can even happen by doing spiritual practices that aren't actually getting towards a more pure state. They're with the intention of becoming more spiritual, you can actually accumulate more material impressions. So it's that kind of journey that a person is on a spiritual journey, to have that ultimate goal of feeling and the personal experience of Kaivalyam. And of course, Jaimini's saying that people with Pisces Svamsa have the greatest ability to attain that in this life. And a couple quick examples of people who express that in a unique way. Henri Matisse, the painter, he's a person who was known for his very aesthetically beautiful paintings, and how he surrounded himself, and he created very idyllic paintings. And he lived in the south of France. He lived a very, very comfortable life. He had his studio. He was a person who, it was almost like he lived in a kind of Garden of Eden kind of experience. And he had that series of paintings called, I think it was called The Dance, where you see, and there was a series of paintings, but you see these people, they were living in this kind of pure surroundings. They were naked, they were sitting around, they were dancing, and this expression of joy. So he was able to articulate that sense of the purity of the soul in those paintings, or the pure experience of being alive when there are very few torments and external pressures. And he was able to bring that out in his paintings, in that kind of paradisical expression, and that paradisical physical surroundings, but also how that creates an inner sense of peace and tranquility. So his work has that quality to it. And of course, as a Pisces Svamsa, he was able to get to that. He was able to express that in his paintings, that sense of purity. Another is Vincent Van Gogh, who has a Pisces Svamsa, and he, of course, lived a very troubled life mentally, because for various reasons, and he had difficult relationships. But when you look at his paintings, you also see this drive to get at the inner essence of nature. And he was able to, the way he saw the world, it's almost as if he could see the substrate of reality and the way that it's moving. Those paintings really made people see the world in a profoundly different way. And some people said that when he painted Starry Night, he was hallucinating because he was eating his own paint, but that because of those hallucinations, he was having these kinds of visions. But when you look at the way those brush strokes, those really revolutionary brush strokes, you can really see the movement of and get a sense that there's an inner essence that escapes most of the perception of people. So he was seeing that there's something beyond physicality, and really wanting to get to those pure levels of perception. And again, that's a very Piscean Svamsa pursuit, wanting to get to the true nature of things, that beautiful experience, that personal experience of being of pure spiritual experience, where material life becomes separate from how you feel from the inside. So you can kind of see that in his pursuit with his paintings, and the way that what he was really tirelessly exploring and wanting to express. So at the end of these videos, we talk about how the exalted planet in the sign shows us the healthy expression of that sign, of that Svamsa, and also the debilitated planet. So we have Venus exalted in Pisces. So that's going to show a healthy Pisces expression, having the qualities of Venus exalted. So as I was alluding to a little earlier, especially with dreams, when you're exploring that nebulous world of Pisces, of that dream state, all of those abstractions that Jupiter can really entertain, you really can't get lost in it to your own doom. What Venus does is it helps a person create a healthy balance between spiritual and material needs. Venus is all about balance. Venus is the planet of relationships, the balance between the give and take between two people. Venus is about a smart business sense, where I scratch your back, you scratch my back, and we both get a good deal. Neither one is exploiting the other. So a healthy Pisces Svamsa is a person that is wise to the world and can see the world as this illusion, this material existence as an illusion, be able to have a healthy inner life, but be able to balance them and not to neglect one or the other. And as I was describing, Pisces is this dream world, this world of relaxation, this world of inner peace and inner exploration. While Virgo, the opposite sign, is of material work, solving problems in material life. That's where Venus is debilitated. Well, an exalted Venus expression is seeing that they're both needed. We have to have a material side and we have to have a spiritual side for us to really complete our earthly experience. Neglecting one or the other is going to lead to an excess, and we don't want excess. As I said, Venus is a planet of balance, finding a healthy work relaxation balance. And Venus exalted gives a person the ability to feel inner peace, and the highest level of that is samadhi, which is when you're at a kind of a constant state of awareness of the lack of external awareness. And so that gives a person, that's such a rejuvenated experience. So people with a healthy Pisces Svamsa are going to have a healthy inner world. Sometimes these people won't have many relationships because they're looking for someone who can share in those deep experiences, be able to entertain those abstract qualities of life, and to be able to really relish them. And that would be a person with a healthy Pisces Svamsa, a person with a healthy inner world. And as well, Venus is the planet of our self-worth. So this inner guidance system, this able to intuit oneself through life, and to have that inner guidance system that they know will bring them to where they need to go. And that guidance system is going to create self-value. And what it does is that it doesn't rely on external validation and external material things to give that healthy sense of self-worth. That's how a healthy Venus, exalted Venus, operates. Material things, they can be enjoyed. Venus is about beauty, about external beauty, but they really value that internal beauty, and they won't distract themselves with things that are so material, but at the same time can enjoy them. They have a balance between enjoying life externally and also really seeing the deepest value of an internal self-worth. An exalted Venus can see beauty in unexpected places, can see something that isn't classically beautiful, but be able to see the value within it, or be able to see that you can find satisfaction and beauty anywhere you look in life. And they won't, as I was saying, they'll entertain the abstractions of life and the nebulous nature of our dream world, but they're not going to get lost in it. And what that really means is being able to relish the mysteries of life and to at some point say, I can't know everything about how the world works, about how my internal world works. There's a mystery, and I can really love and appreciate that mystery. I don't have to know everything perfectly. And that is an extremely healthy way to be living life. And a healthy Pisces Svamsa will be to have that relation between, there's so much profound things and so many things I'll never know. And isn't life just amazing and beautiful in that way? So it's not wanting to know everything and wanting to concretize, make everything concrete. You can really enjoy the mysteries of life. And as I was touching on, being able to have a nice, healthy sense of contemplation, and Venus, the planet of taste, both of the taste of the things, liking things, having good taste, meaning having a good appreciation in an artistic sense, but also what we taste in terms of food. So these people will have the extra push to be able to taste spiritual experiences, first-hand spiritual experiences. This would be a healthy Pisces Svamsa. And really craving that deeper internal experience and wanting that for oneself, and seeing that it is a very personal, individual experience, and really having that, they can have that quality of desiring it and then achieving firsthand spiritual experiences, otherworldly, divine, and enlightening experiences, even in daily life. So those are the qualities of a healthy Pisces Svamsa, the qualities of a healthy Venus exalted in Pisces. The debilitated planet in Pisces is Mercury. And so Mercury, it's a planet that is really about creating categories, seeing and being able to put things into categories, really observing the world and seeing the patterns in life from a very objective perspective, and really wanting to make Mercury is a manifesting planet. It wants to bring things into reality. It wants to see things and then create those things and put them into some kind of organization. Because Mercury is an Earth planet, it wants to make practical what we observe with our ability for observation. The problem with Mercury in Pisces is that Pisces is not a very practical place. It's a place of the infinite, and not everything that is infinite works in daily life. And Mercury wants to make things work in a very practical way. So what can happen with an unhealthy Pisces Svamsa is people have trouble with distinguishing fantasies from realities, discerning what they're imagining to be there and what really is there, and realizing that the spiritual world, the abstract world of Pisces, it's extremely difficult to manifest those experiences into everyday life, and then to separate those two types of experiences, material and spiritual experiences. They want to combine them too much, or they want to categorize them, and they end up miscategorizing things or over-categorizing things. Some things are left to be personal experiences. They're meant to stay abstract. They're not meant to be materialized. They're not meant to be literalized. They're meant to stay within an abstract concept and since Mercury deals so much with our communication, wanting to over-communicate extremely abstract things. And so what that can cause is this kind of scattered mind and swimming too much in areas of life that ends up confusing other people and causes confusion into yourself. And so a person can end up getting lost in that abstract world. And as I said, confusing the abstract and the concrete, because Mercury really wants to make things real in front of us and make things alive. But Pisces is so much more of an internal world. So what that means is these people can be, with an unhealthy Pisces Svamsa, become very ungrounded, and they won't have their feet on the ground, in the sense that they can get swept away into ideas and beliefs very easily. And as I was kind of talking about how morality, it's a very important theme in the understanding one's internal sense of reality and the grain of morality and the grayness of morality. Mercury is going to try to take all of those abstract understandings of morality and try to make it as concrete as possible. And that can end up just becoming confusing for other people. And it can they can make a person really mixed up. And the end result is just being impractical. The most true things are extremely simple things. And Mercury is going to over-complexify all of these abstractions. It wants to come to objective sense of all of it. Mercury is exalted in Virgo, the most concrete sign there is, the most earthy, problem-solving, practical sign there is. It's debilitated in Pisces. So it just ends up being too over-conceptualized, and at the end of it, it's just impractical and complicated. So that's what can happen with an unhealthy Pisces Svamsa. And you wouldn't think about it as, so Mercury is the planet of the friendships we make. And you would think a person with Mercury in Pisces or a Piscean Mercury mix would create profound friendships. But since Mercury becomes so impractical in the Piscean energy, what ends up happening is that they make friendships and they try to make friends based on very impractical things or very abstract things. But when it comes to a good friendship are two people that share the same they have the same simple outlook on life. Their minds connect in a very easygoing ways and practical ways, really day-to-day activities that just make you enjoy spending time together. So a mercurial Pisces energy can be they can be attracted to people who are so intellectual and they love discussing these big ideas. But then when push comes to shove, their friends kind of disappear, and because they didn't share anything on the superficial level, these simple things in life. So they can have superficial friendships that when they look for, help in a simple way, well, they were only the friendships they created were too airy, and they were too based on big, large philosophical ideas, and they just weren't grounded enough. So a person with a Pisces Svamsa, one challenge is that how superficial are your relationships? Being a person that can be so driven towards individual growth on a spiritual level, they can lose that one-on-one or that really simple connection to other people, and which makes life just fun to live. Mercury is a planet of having fun and just enjoying simple activities and being spontaneous. So a Pisces Svamsa challenge is definitely to make grounded friendships with other people and not lose yourself in your own inner world. So I was saying, a healthy Pisces Svamsa, they're going to have deep relationships with people. But those deep relationships are, as Venus, those deep relationships, they can be few and far between, but there is a depth, and there is a connection on a spiritual level. And those bonds are very hard to break. But when it comes to just having friendly relationships, you don't want to have them all be based on such deep, profound observations about life. you want to just have fun in the moment. So there is that balance to be found of my relationship with a significant other. It's based on these deep principles, which is that healthy expression. But I don't have to have every friendly interaction be so deep. You're supposed to just have fun as well. And you want to rely on someone when you're in need. And that's what a nice, healthy, practical friendship is about. But basing those simple friendships on those deep qualities, it's going to end up, when you really need to rely on somebody else, they're not going to be there because you didn't share too many things on just a superficial day-to-day level. So that is the conclusion of the Pisces Svamsa, and that's the conclusion of this series. If you have any questions about any of these signs and any doubts about how to explore how a Svamsa sign can be healthy or unhealthy, just send me an email right in the comments. But I hope that this was informative. You can really study each sign from infinite perspectives, and it can never end, and you can rehash all of these ideas infinitely. Astrology is like that. It's the study of everything, and that study can really never end. So hopefully this context of the Svamsa sign can help you see these signs from a different angle and really look at your own life and see, yeah, these are the major themes and obstacles in the context of following my purpose in life and feeling my life has a deeper meaning, because that's going to give the most fulfilling sense. And so the Svamsa sign is all about being able to overcome those obstacles, to feel on a very individual level that my life has a bigger purpose to it, and I'm satisfied with the way my life is moving, and I'm doing my Dharma, my duty in life, with cognizance and with deep satisfaction within yourself, so that, again, how we can elevate to the next stages in life and to liberate ourselves from the experiences that we no longer need. Okay, so thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next videos.